I'd like to ask the Minister for Education, Sport and Culture when his department stopped peripatetic foreign language teaching in primary schools and what plans he has to reintroduce this for key stages 1 and 2.
Call on the Minister to reply, Mr. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the Honourable Member may be aware, the Curriculum Order 2011 indicates that within Key Stage 2, ages 7 to 11, the curriculum may include French. At the time of this order, this optional provision was supported by the Peripatetic Primary Modern Languages Services. However, the Department's arrangements for teaching of languages in primary schools altered substantially in July 2012 in order to minimise the impact of the budget reductions on other frontline services. The Peripatetic Primary Modern Language Service was discontinued. Beyond the requirements of the order, however, the Department would not seek to prescribe schools in terms of their curriculum, but rather delegates responsibility for the detailed content of the curricula to head teachers. This means that schools can respond quickly to the need and interests of pupils. In reality, primary schools have continued to offer language teaching, including Manx Gaelic, all schools as an option, and in some cases other languages such as French and Mandarin. There are currently no plans to require schools to develop this curricula beyond this. Mr. President, we are also working with the Confucius Institute to bring in a primary school Mandarin teacher, so that's part of our progress into the future, is that we're hoping that we'll be able to bring a Mandarin speaker into the primary schools.
Supplementary, Mrs. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the Minister for his answer, but I wonder how getting rid of foreign language teaching and French, particularly in primary schools as standard, fits in with the world-class education system that we boast the Isle of Man has and has enjoyed for many years. Is the Minister aware, though, that since the peripatetic provision was removed, that a number of schools in Douglas have facilitated a private operator, franchisee of La Jolie Ronde, to provide French lessons for some students? But actually, the department charges for the school premises for the lunch hour while those languages are going on, and therefore restricts the amount of private tuition for French that could replace what the department is no longer able to provide. Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated earlier, the teaching of the languages is left up to the schools. I think most people realise that French, many years ago, probably at the start of the EU, was being pushed out to schools. I think more modern languages, such as Spanish, Mandarin and German, have taken that.
Supplementary, Mrs. Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd be delighted if the Minister can confirm then how many schools would benefit from modern languages, including Mandarin, in primary level in the coming months.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, does the Honourable Member mean will I update it in the coming months about what we're doing, or how they will benefit in the coming months? Which?
I mean, from your comment about how important it is to have modern languages, including Mandarin, how many of our primary schools, Key Stage 2, will benefit from those modern languages provided by the department in the near future?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we're still working with the Confucius Institute, that's a position that we're hoping to fill in the near future.
Honourable Member for Aaron Michael, Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the Minister agree with me that in times of tight budgets, it's incumbent on all departments to make difficult choices, and that the department, as all other departments, needs to try and get the best return from the funds it has available, and unfortunately, at times, choices have to be made that don't keep everybody happy.
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I would agree. You know, we were left with difficult decisions back in 2012, and it was decided that we would concentrate on the key topics rather than the front line.
Honourable Member for Middle, Mr. Shimmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the Minister feel that charging for school premises at lunchtime for people to provide foreign languages teaching encourages or discourages the provision of foreign languages? And how does the provision of foreign languages in our primary schools compare against neighbouring places in the British Isles, including Jersey and Guernsey and Scotland and Ireland?
Minister's reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think their proximity to France probably indicates why they should be teaching a bit of French in
Scotland and Ireland. They're not very close.
Mr. President, we are trying to get live within our budgets. As a Treasury member would know that budgets do get squeezed. We had to make decisions back in 2012, and I will go and see if there is a comparator how we deal with it. But we are working with the Gaelic languages as well, so we have minority languages through British Irish Council.
Honourable Member for Council, Ms August Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask whether or not there would be any due consideration to perhaps having some form of negotiation with the teacher of French to consider perhaps maybe reducing the amount of money that they would have to pay for renting the space?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. I shall make some investigation on that.
Honourable Member for Garff, Mrs Caine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the Minister for his response. My understanding is that when the La Jolie Ronde started on the Isle of Man, they expanded to a large number of schools, but that's been retracted now to about 6 schools and about 100 children learning French within school time, and that the tutors providing that are pretty much doing it for the love of language and to inspire and instill a love of languages within those children because of all the benefits it brings for learning a language at a very young age. So if the Minister could review the charges for that would be hugely helpful. The only other provision is at the family library on a Saturday where parents from all over the island are able to make use of that. So would the Minister undertake to review the provision of foreign languages in our schools as a matter of urgency?
Oui.
Monsieur Crugine.
Oui. Mr. President, I think we have to be very cautious here because, if these are profit-making companies that are wanting to utilise our schools and have free premises, we have to be very much aware that we are not actually taking a revenue stream from other providers out there. So I will have a look at the situation.
Honourable Member for Douglas East, Ms Bettison.
I was just wondering whether the room hire charges at lunchtimes and break times are the same for all different language providers, or if it is just for French lessons.
Minister, whether you have that information?
No, I don't, but I'll try and find out, Mr. President.